Y'all, the word for this month is hope. Romans 5, 3 and 4 Amplified Bible reads, "And not only this, but with joy, let us exult in our sufferings and rejoice in our hardships, knowing that hardship, distress, pressure, trouble produces patient endurance, and endurance proven character or spiritual maturity, and proven character hope and confident assurance of eternal salvation." Now, Paul essentially writes to the Christian believers in Rome regarding their faith, and he's laying out the intentions of God's plan in the work of Jesus Christ and the person of Jesus Christ, and how the Romans, he's telling them, are justified by their faith. So he's laying out essentially the principle of faith, as opposed to the principle of the law, which is work-based. And to understand verse 3 and 4 in chapter 5, we have to look back to chapter 4 and look at the justification of faith in the Old Testament, which is exemplified by Abraham, the pioneer of the father of the faith, right? And so the Bible says that Abraham believed and it was credited to him as righteousness. So fast forward to chapter 5, Paul is telling the Romans, listen, you are justified by faith. You are acquitted of all sin, of all wrong. Because why? Because you believed like Abraham, and because you have this faith. Now you have this access. So he's telling them, rejoice in the fact that you have this access. Rejoice in the fact that you are acquitted of all these wrongs, all your wrongs. And also, verse 3 in chapter 5, he's telling them, because you have this access, because you have this joy, because you have been justified through your faith, not because of works, through faith, you can rejoice in your hardships. You can rejoice when you are suffering. And that's not an easy thing to do, because it's not likely and it's not commonplace for us to rejoice when things are not going well, right? But Paul is encouraging the Romans, listen, you have this faith that you have. It's more than what you think it is, because Abraham believed and it was credited to him as righteousness, right? So the promise that Abraham received was not only for him, but the promises that you have. In chapter 5, it goes on to speak about the promises of God. So the promises of God does not disappoint. So Paul is essentially telling the Romans in this chapter, listen, like Abraham believed and like Abraham was promised, God gave you a promise. And we are to remember, like Abraham, that God didn't disappoint Abraham. So remember this for yourself and remain in hope, remain in love. God bless you.